From the News Channel 5 Network and Out and About Nashville, this is Out and About Today, sponsored by the Tennessee Performing Arts Center.
Hello, I'm Chuck Long, and glad you're joining us for a special holiday edition of Out and About Today. Tonight, we're looking back at something that actually helped get us through a year like no other, and that would be entertainment. Brent and Pam will be along shortly to look at the television highlights of 2020, but we're going to start with a look back at some of the best books of the year. Joining me are two of my favorite friends. This is going to be fun. Both are best-selling authors who released books this past year. Please welcome Greg Howard, whose wildly popular books include The Whisperers and Middle School's a Drag, and Julia Heaberlin, whose international best-selling books include We Are All the Same in the Dark and Paper Ghost. Guys, I've been looking so forward to this. It's so good to see you. How are you? Julie, I'm going to start with you. I do have to say, Julie and I grew up together, and you went by Julie, of course, growing up, but as an international best-selling author, you go by Julia. So I'm going to go with Julie, but I know your fans know you as Julia. It's so good to have you both. Julie, what's it like? We finally got to do this.
It's a little bit of a surreal experience since we knew each other since third grade, and we actually dated a little. Am I supposed to say that?
Yes, that's fine.
One of my favorite people for years and years.
Well, right back at you. You know, I just think the world of you. You're one of my favorite friends, like I said a little bit earlier. And then Greg, of course, Greg's been on Out and About Today before several times with the release of each new book. And Greg is actually Tom, his best friend, and Tom is actually there dog sitting while Greg is doing this. So, I mean, it's good. I'm so glad that Greg and Julie are getting together because I've been talking about you guys to each other for so long. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Now, I mentioned you've got a lot of things in common. You both started writing in your late 40s. You both went on to become best-selling authors, and you both released books during a pandemic. I'm going to start with you, Greg. I got to do the book launch with you at Parnassus for Middle School's a Drag, and I did want to say Middle School's a Drag, which I just love the book. I mean, great reviews on it. Celebration of bravery, heartfelt and hilarious. Greg, tell me, what was it like releasing a book during the pandemic?
Well, first of all, that's something I don't recommend anyone do, is release a book during a pandemic, but it got off to a great start. The launch happened. It was early February when Middle School's a Drag came out. But then everything following up got canceled, like all the book tour stops and conferences and festivals. So I wasn't really able to, meet the readers and talk about the book so much. So it's been tough. I've been trying to find other ways to engage with readers with that book.
Well, I tell you, it's such a great book, and I know it was a challenge, but we're glad that it's out in the world. Julie, want to go to you. We're talking about We Are All the Same in the Dark that just came out in the last few months. Incredible reviews on it. Psychologically absorbing. I couldn't turn the pages fast enough. You've got some just incredible reviews. If you only read one thriller this year, let it be this one. That's We Are All the Same in the Dark. So what was your experience like? I mean, you released it in the heart of the pandemic.
Yeah, I echo what Greg says. It was incredibly tough, and the media galleys that are usually sent out were locked in a warehouse during, the horrible stuff that was going on in New York at that time, and now also. But my publicists were all locked in tiny apartments and said they'd have to give away their kids to store my books. So I sent them from my kitchen table. So there was a lot more work, physical work, to actually doing publicity on my part. As well as all the Zooming. But I feel like I made a lot more connections with people and readers this way. I don't know, Greg, if you felt the same way. So there were some pluses about it, but it did feel like you were, dropping a penny out there into the dark. So it's tough for all authors, tough for all independent bookstores.
I tell you,
I agree with Julia. It was just we had to learn different ways to promote our books.
Well, and we're hoping, that this just helps in a little way as well, because they're both just incredible books. So we are going to talk about some of your favorite books that you've read during the past year. Some came out this year, some came out in the past few years. Greg, we're going to start with you. Well, actually, this is an all discussion because we all three read this one. We're going to start with Red, White, and Royal Blue. So, Greg, I will start with you, though. So tell me, what did you like about that book?
I'd seen that book around, and saw it everywhere, and people were saying good things about it. But I just said, I'm going to check this out because I know it's being made into a film, so I wanted to check it out. I loved this book. It was just so much fun, that, and at a time when there was not a lot of fun things going on, Red, White, and Royal Blue was just such a fun ride.
Really is. I mean, Vogue, NPR, Vanity Fair, they call it one of the best books of the year. Julia, what caught your attention on Red, White, and Royal Blue?
Well, just the plot, a royal prince and the first son in the White House having a love affair, and then the woman was president. A woman was president. So it's like a White House we all want to see, right?
Right.
It was sexy and funny, well written. You all suggested it to me, and I really loved it. As a straight woman, I loved this book. It was one of my favorite romances I ever read. And, I felt it had a message that, resonated too.
And I think you hit on something too, Julie. It was kind of like, my gosh, a woman was president, and it was almost like the way that we want to see it. And I just found it charming. I found it a little steamy at times, which I loved. There were just so many great things about it, and it was one of those books that I could hardly wait. I usually do the audiobook, and I couldn't wait to get on my walk to read Red, White, and Royal Blue. So I recommend that. Julie recommends it, and Greg does too. So that is a three-way recommendation on that. So we're going to go on to the next book that we want to talk about. Greg, I'll go to you. This is A Beautiful Crime. So tell me a little bit about that book.
I found this book on Oprah's list of the best 25 books of LGBTQ books of the year, and I knew nothing about it. It's by Christopher Bolin, and it's about a gay couple, two young, they're like in their mid-20s in New York, but they go to Venice to con this rich older American who's retired there out of some antiquities. And it's like part grifter novel and part romance and part thriller. But what really caught my attention about it, I loved the Ripley books by Patricia Highsmith when I was younger. I read through those books. Most people know the film, The Talented Mr. Ripley, but there's a whole series of books that she wrote. This reminded me so much of the Ripley books, and also the writing kind of reminded me of Andre Aciman, who wrote Call Me By Your Name and Find Me. And it kind of had that feel married with Patricia Highsmith's kind of mystery grifter novel. I love this book. I know it'll be in my top 5 for the year, and it probably will be my #1 queer lit book of the year.
Excellent. So as soon as I saw that one and I read about it, I'm like, okay, I've got to put this on my list. Okay, we do have to take a short break. When we come back, Julie's going to tell us about, I think, a couple of books that you might put in a self-help category. So we'll take a break. More on Out and About today right after this.